Hello, I'm Kaiser and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author, and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today, I will be reviewing The Martian by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi novel. The description says, 6 days ago, astronaut Mark Watney became one of the first people to walk on Mars. Now he's sure he'll be the first person to die there. After a dust storm nearly kills him and forces his crew to evacuate while thinking him dead, Mark finds himself stranded and completely alone with no way to even signal Earth that he's alive. And even if he could get word out, his supplies would be gone long before rescue could arrive. Chances are, though, he won't have time to starve to death. The damaged machinery, unforgiving environment, or plain old human error are much more likely to kill him first. But Mark isn't ready to give up yet. Drawing on his ingenuity, his engineering skills, and a relentless, dogged refusal to quit, he steadfastly confronts one seemingly insurmountable obstacle after the next. Will his resourcefulness be enough to overcome the impossible odds against him? 4 stars. This is another book that I read because I liked the movie. I'd heard plenty of good things about Andy Weir's writing, so I figured I'd eventually have to see for myself. So, here we are. In all honesty, I'm more interested in reading Project Hail Mary, but I thought it would be better to start with The Martian. Given that I'd seen the movie and enjoyed it, I thought that if I read The Martian and didn't enjoy it, it would have to be because I didn't like Weir's prose. On the other hand, if I started with Project Hail Mary, the prose might be fine and the plot might put me off. Sometimes it's obvious when you dislike a book if it's a problem with the writing or a problem with the story, but that isn't always the case. With Weir, I've heard that his writing is fairly heavy on the science, so I thought there was a risk that this fact might blur the lines. So here I am, having read The Martian, and I can safely say that I mostly like the way Weir writes. It is sort of science-heavy, but the way Weir presents the information is generally easy to follow and not oppressive. Watney is the primary narrator of the story, and his wit and humor smooth over what might otherwise have been quite tedious. The second narration, which is third person following the people at NASA, was not quite as strong, but generally whatever was happening there felt high stakes enough that it also wasn't tedious. There was only one aspect of The Martian that I didn't especially care for. That is, the third form of narration, which involved a third-person account of what happened with regards to various pieces of equipment. I understand why these were there. Almost every time equipment failure leads to disaster, the cause isn't obvious, and there isn't much way for Watney or the NASA team to figure out what went wrong, or to then reasonably explain it within the narration. So instead, we get these brief interludes that just explain the issue. Possibly, it would have been better to just leave this out. If the characters don't know what went wrong, why should the reader? But I think that in a book so reliant on authentically presenting a hypothetical scenario such as this, not knowing why these major mishaps came about would have been dissatisfying and felt like plot contrivances when they weren't. So I don't blame Weir for putting them in there. The trouble is that, being entirely unconnected to the characters, they feel a bit clunky whenever they pop up. I also think this is one place where Weir's clever writing worked against him. The way these parts are written, it seems like the equipment in question is being presented as a character itself, which doesn't feel quite right. I think that if it had felt a little bit more straightforward in its delivery, it might have felt a little less out of place. Still, these pieces were few and far between, and their negatives didn't outweigh their positives. So while I wasn't crazy about them, they hardly make any negative impact on the book as a whole. Overall, if you like sci-fi, especially hard sci-fi or grounded sci-fi, I would recommend this book. That's it for no spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. This isn't a complaint, but the one thing that felt the most unbelievable in The Martian was how dedicated everyone was to saving one man, despite the exorbitant cost of doing so. I get that to some extent it's a PR issue, but there were several points at which NASA could easily have washed their hands of it without looking like the bad guys, but they persisted in their mission to save Watney. It got considerably worse when the Chinese space program decided to offer their help. It's not impossible, but it does seem rather unlikely. I'm not trying to shit on the Chinese here, to be clear. Sub in literally any nation, and I'd say the same thing. They sacrifice a piece of equipment that nobody knows about, and therefore can't blame them for not offering, and they are certain they will not get funding to make again, thus scrubbing an entire mission and years of work to save one foreign astronaut. Maybe I'm too cynical. Certainly, even if it isn't terribly realistic, it doesn't strain reasonable suspension of disbelief. So it isn't a problem, just one of those things that, when you stop reading for a while, you start to question. Okay, the rest of this is going to be comparing the movie to the book, so if you're not interested, here's your chance to just skip it. The short version is that the book was better, but that's probably fairly obvious. I knew going into this that the movie will have left out some plot points, but I could not have guessed just how many. More surprising is how long it took for that to become evident. The first half of the book and movie line up almost exactly. The film glosses over a few details here and there, but that's something you would expect with the format shift. It isn't until Watney starts trying to modify his rovers so that he can take his air recycler and water reclaimer with him that there's a major shift. And boy is it a major shift. There are at least 5 major disasters that happen between then and reaching the Ares 4 site, and the movie just nixed all of it. To some extent, I understand. Movies have bigger time constraints than novels, after all, but it seems kind of weird that all of the cuts were from that one area of the book. I feel like there were a few places they could have spread out the reductions to, and kept in at least some of the crises of Watney's very long drive. It may also have helped to make his very long drive feel longer. As it is, it feels a little like taking a weekend trip. I was also disappointed that they changed the ending. In both the film and the book, when Watney's been launched into space, there's a problem with the recovery distance and velocity. In both, Watney suggests he cut a small hole in his suit to use the escaping oxygen as a propellant, but in the book he doesn't do that. They figure out how to fix the problem without having to rely on such an unstable solution. I can understand the change, I suppose. Watney is more or less static for the final leg of the book, which might be disappointing for some people after how hard he's worked to save himself. But for me, I liked that it gave the crew their win. They left him behind. Accidentally, but they still left him, so everything they do to rescue him is a sort of redemption for their own consciousness. I liked that they got that in the book. In the movie, it didn't feel like much. I also think the movie people did it because it would look cool and be more action-heavy. I really wish Hollywood had a better understanding of the fact that slow doesn't always mean bad, but what can you do? That's all I have to say about The Martian. If you like this video, I hope you watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!